I get this question a lot, and Craig, you might be able to answer this from multiple story farm writers. But when an industry pro has your script marked as under consideration, and maybe JERREN, you could speak to this too. This, I'm assuming, referencing, you know, their own profile on the ISA site. Is there a timeline on when those industry pros decide whether to pass, move forward? What's the process there? And there are some writers that only always see under consideration, and then the person doesn't go back and manually flip it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have no control over industry pros canceling out any that they were considering. And here's what is very common is an industry pro will look at a bunch of screenplays and then get distracted by another project they're working on. Mm-hmm. And they may sit in their queue for a year or two. And that is, there's not too much we can do. We're going to try some new things with the new site. And we're going to keep pressing and sending notifications to the industry pros to remind them to just kind of clear things out. I would always look at it like, you know, you put it out there and just let it go. I think it was Bryan Cranston who said about auditioning is like the audition was the job. It never was in his mind the next thing. That would just be frosting on the cake. What he went in every time was to make sure that he presented himself as the character that he interpreted as. He wanted to give his best. And I think that's the same with applying for any kind of job, writing gig, whatever. Submit your best. And even though I know it says in consideration, it's still being possibly considered, you could get a call in a year from now. I would just let it go and move on to the next thing. You can't sit there. It's like contests. Sometimes you're going to find submissions to contests. You are in the semifinals, maybe even make the finals, and there's another contest. You didn't even make the quarterfinals. And it's because those contests, and it's the same with industry pros, are the material just doesn't resonate for them the way others' material does. That is not personal, nothing you should take personally. It is just you haven't found the perfect match for you, you know, and you just keep trying and you keep moving forward and you try other things. But if you love it enough, and if you're listening and you're getting the notes and you're developing your craft and you're making sure that you've done your 90%, you just keep going and keep going and keep going until that day when it all aligns. But, you know, starting from the beginning, looking at those log lines and improving those and making sure your script is in tip-top shape, and then surrendering and moving on to another one. You're a writer, write another great idea, because I promise you by second, third, fourth, you know, the second or third or fourth script that you've written, you're starting to learn more about who you are as an artist. Your voice is becoming stronger. You may even look back at that one that's still in consideration and rewrite it, you know, and find out that there wasn't something that totally locked in and made it the most perfect that it could be. So it's all a discovery, I think. And, you know, they say, you know, be on the journey, enjoy the journey.
I personally like to think of it like you're building a pyramid. So every little block eventually is building the foundation that'll keep it upright. And where the in consideration thing becomes really important to think about is that just because they give it a no doesn't mean they didn't read some of it, and just because it got a no doesn't mean they didn't read all of it. In fact, we have a industry pro that we're working with. I read a script a year ago that I'm putting forward for it. So that's part of it, you know. It's about writing to the point where even if it's a no right now, it might not be a no in 6 months, it might not be a no in 2 years. And the more they see your name, the more they start to associate you with good material and things like that. It's sort of like you're Pavloving your way into their brain, where over time they'll be like, oh, I've heard that name. Oh yeah, I like that person. Sure, I'll read their stuff. And they may not have ever met you, you know? So it's like, it builds over time.
It does. And the under consideration thing can be used in a good way. If you're getting a lot of those, again, all of these people move on to other things so quickly and they have so much going on. But under consideration is kind of like placing in a contest or whatever, you know that you're doing something right. You know that your log line is appealing. You know that your synopsis is appealing. And it's all those things that you start to build together, especially if you start to query. Likely you're going to get a lot of no answers and some rejections, but if
A lot of no answers. That was so right.
But if you start to get a few, like you just know that your log line and your pitch and your voice, something's right there. So you just start to build on top of all that. That's how you start to build. And then you start to go look at your list of producers. And you're like, okay, I know my log line's working out well. It's getting under consideration a lot or whatever. Just taking all of those things and putting them in to the bag, I guess, or whatever, of how you're building it all. The pyramid, as Jordan said. I think that was a good way to put it.